It was a dark and stormy night again in CG City. This town will break your heart, kid. Doxings, gay ops, late books, and sometimes no books at all. CG City had it all. The night was like any other when the dame walked into my office, dumpy and angry, a mouth like a sewer. Her mouth was dirtier than the bare feet she walked in on. My kind of gal. Her name was Vanessa, and I could tell she was dangerous. She worked at the local radio station, co-hosting a weekend show called The Chat. Her co-host, Leroy, no, not that Leroy, this Leroy, had disappeared under mysterious circumstances, and his show cancelled. I suspected foul play, so did she, especially after the show had been scrubbed off of YouTube. I said, "Don't you worry your dumpy face about it, Toots. You came to the right place. There's only one idiot autistic enough in Comicsgate to get himself tied up in this mess, and you're looking at him. You just run along home, dollface. I'll take care of it." The broad left as soon as she had arrived, like most women. Story of my life. But there was no point in sitting around with my dick in my paw. There was a case to work. It wasn't long before a message came over the wire. They'd found Leroy. The scene wasn't pretty, but it was definitely him. A copy of Starlight Cats, a book for 10-year-old girls, Leroy's favorite, was still lying on the pavement at the scene. I quickly learned by asking around Leroy's last show had kicked up quite a stir, criticizing a number of the Comicsgate kings, the powerful underbelly that ran this town. Word was Leroy had upset the outfit when he put them on blast over the airwaves for overdue merchandise. This case was already getting me more trouble than it was worth, and it was only going to get worse. I took a few snapshots of the crime scene before leaving the grisly display. There was nothing more to be gained here. Just another sucker in a long list of lost souls who had found their end in CG City. There's not too many places a pug is welcome in this city, especially this pug, but I knew my next stop would be the Stanktown Police Precinct. Stanktown. A run-down neighborhood filled with liquored-up booze hounds and prostitutes with piss-stained panties. I came for the booze, but I always stayed for the pissy panties. The man who ran Stanktown was also the precinct's chief of police, Chief of Police Finn, or as the hoods on the street called him, Lord Finatra. When I approached the desk clerk, I was told Lord Finatra was in the interrogation room. Someone had come forward with information on the Leroy case. I wasted no time and navigated the dimly lit hallways to my destination. I noticed the door open in the adjacent room and slid in unnoticed, preparing to witness the scene from behind the safety one-way glass. The room was surprisingly empty, not a soul, and I quickly learned why. Ethan Van Sciver, the Frogfather of the Comicsgate Kings, Dawn of Dawns, Boss of Bosses, was just sitting down with Lord Finatra and two of his boys in blue. I crept towards the window and prepared to listen to what the Frogfather had to say.
Welcome, Ethan.
Welcome. So, all right, I'm piecing this together. I woke up this morning. Leroy is gone off of YouTube. Now,
Yeah.
That's weird.
No, it isn't that weird. What do you guys know about it?
He said that shit from day one, that if he ever became too popular, that he would walk away. And I said, "Are you serious?" I was like, "If you got 1,000, 5,000, and so much time," he's like, "Yep, I'll walk away." I was like, "You're crazy." He's like, "Yep." And that's exactly what he did.
Well, I don't think that's why it happened. So Leroy did a show the other day where it was just like, hey, I'm not going to back Gabe. Dan Frag is hanging by a thread. You know what I mean? Like all this stuff, like he was complaining about the lateness of some Comicsgate books. And that was like, that was something else. I mean, it was just like, it was kind of like a call to arms. I was like, holy shit. He said, Cecil's joke is not funny anymore. And then I'm doing a live stream. Okay. All right. In order, this is what happened. So he did that. And I got notified about it by somebody who is in all of these streams all the time. I got a message on Twitter a DM from somebody going, "Do you see what's going on here? There's, this is terrible for Comicsgate. This guy is saying this stuff on a live stream." And I kind of responded by saying, "You know what? Well, making a big issue of it's only going to make it worse.
Yep.
Like if you're right, you know what I mean? Like being like, hey, it's only going to make it worse. So you just let people have their opinions and just leave them alone." And that was it. Now you all know who this was, who sent me this message.
No.
I don't know.
No, I mean, I'm just saying, if I told you, you'd be like, "Oh yeah, that dude." So anyway, then I'm doing a live stream last night, and I pretty much completely forgotten about this whole thing. And Comics Exposed comes on. He's like saying, "Where's Wreck Planet?" And you're late and all this stuff. And finally he said, "I'd like to come on the stream and discuss it with you." And I was like, "Oh, yeah, shit. All right, come on. Let's talk about it." So brought him on, and he's sitting there saying the same exact stuff that like Leroy and Vanessa were saying on their show. And I said, "You're parroting like their talking points." And he goes, "That's because I agreed with them." Okay, that's fine. So then, we had that conversation. It went okay, I think. And then I get, as soon as the stream ends, I get a message from Leroy saying, "I'm getting all kinds of hate. I'm getting dox threats." From creators in this community.
Right.
And first of all, when I hear like I'm getting dox threats, I got to be honest with you.
You don't
From
take it
CG
seriously.
people.
Yeah, it's the same thing as when like SJWs go or feminists go, "I'm getting death threats." It's like, well, if you are, like, produce them. You know what I mean? Like, if somebody's saying, "I'm going to dox you," like, can we just see who's doing that, please? But anyway, what I said to Leroy was, I just said, "Dude," I said, welcome to the public arena. Yeah, you come out and like, it's one thing to be a customer, but as soon as you become like a quote unquote influencer, like you're on live streams and you express opinions, you're gonna get what you call hate. He
didn't want any of that smoke. He don't want none of that shit.
He doesn't want any of it.
None of it. Not at all.
But at the same time, you go on a live stream and you basically say, "I'm not going to support Gabe El Taib. I'm not going to support Dan Fraga." Yeah, well, Leroy this morning, after what did I say? Let me actually like read what I said to him without reading his tweets.
That's fine.
I said, he said something weird. He said, like, "I'm not trying to go to war with anyone." Go to war? Like, what the hell? I was like, "Who said you're trying to go to war? What are you talking about?"
Soldier. He's been at war. He's worked for it.
Like, that's not even like close to what I thought. Like, I was sitting there going, "Oh shit!" Like, Leroy and Vanessa are turning against us because we're late. We're in real trouble. Like, that was what's going on. And then it's like, "We're not trying to go to war with you." It's like, fuck, man. Like, that's not even close to where my head is.
That's how he framed it.
Yeah, like he thought like he was in real trouble. Like, we were. It's like, no, you're not in trouble. Like here's the thing. Like the chat show is like,
good.
Yeah, for
I
us,
used to be part of it.
Yeah, for us, it's like we're listening to your show because you guys are kind of representing the fans. So he said, "Oh, I'm getting a lot of hate," and blah blah blah. I said, "Hey, you're a YouTuber expressing strong opinions. Welcome to the fray." And that was it. And then I went to bed. Woke up and Leroy's taken his whole YouTube channel down. First of all, I have a feeling I know who threatened to dox him, if that even happened. Like, I have a feeling I know, and I think it's the person who sent me those messages in the first place, telling me that I need to learn. And I will say this, that dude needs to lighten the fuck up. I don't know what kind of war is going on behind the scenes here between some factions, but like,
fireman, fire starter.
Leave each other the fuck alone. And on the one hand, it's like, Leroy, I would say to Leroy, when you're sitting there telling your audience that like you guys are not going to be supporting certain like big name comic skaters who haven't even produced anything yet,
influence.
Like,
you don't even see it.
Yeah, don't think that that's going to go over like without criticism.
Leroy got mentioned on every other Slumtown CG stream the last week.
No, here's the thing. It doesn't matter. Like, we'll still love you. You can say something that people disagree with, and people are going to say, "You know what? I don't like that. Fuck you." But you're still going to be loved here in this. You're allowed to say dumb stuff every now and then.
Like this
guy? Not
good
Testify.
Morning.
Good morning, Testify.
I just thought I'd throw this out there. I don't know.
Yeah, you got anything to say about this?
Yeah, I do.
All right. Well, sure.
Have you ever heard the well-read theory on Leroy?
Wait, what?
Yeah.
What? More
You never heard that? You never heard how he thinks they're a war campaign gay op?
Oh, I wouldn't want to share it, but
Oh, see, it's true.
well, no, well-read
Anyway,
asked me.
fucking
No, well-read
so-
asked me. He's like, "Is it Leroy war campaign?" I'm like, "That doesn't matter, dude. Like, he
was,
doesn't.
wasn't
He doesn't like drama. He don't like none of that shit anyway. So it don't matter."
I think I know who the perpetrator is of this.
So the
And,
person who informed you started the fire.
I had to investigate this morning because yeah, it's upsetting that Leroy's gone. So
He's
again,
irreplaceable. So
yeah.
Thanks, Ethan.
All right, guys, take care. Have a good day.
The Frog Father left the room, while Lord Finatra and his boys processed what they'd just heard. It was a lot to take in, but from the sounds of it, Leroy took his own YouTube life after receiving a dox threat from an unknown Comicsgate creator. I didn't know it at the time, but the papers would soon dub this individual the CG Hitman. Ethan also spoke of another individual, a snitch, who was tipping off the Comicsgate Kings. He presumed this CG snitch to be the same individual who threatened to dox Leroy, the so-called CG Hitman. Then there was Testefy, the leader of a street-level gang known as the Etsy Boys, racketeering, standover men, thugs for hire. Wherever there was something rotten in CG City, you could be sure Testefy and his Etsy Boys were somehow involved. Testefy seemed to imply that a rival broadcaster, Well-Read User, the host of the critically panned Well-Read Radio, had previous beef with Leroy for believing him to be a war campaign gay op. Red wasn't the only suspect with motive. According to Ethan, Leroy had criticized a number of the Comicsgate Kings, Cecil Jones, Dan Fraga, Gabe Altaib, all established made men in the Comicsgate Kings crime family. From made men in Comicsgate Kings to the lower gangs like the Crack Pack and a nobody like Well-Read User, Leroy had made himself plenty of enemies over his career of broadcasting. This was going to be a tough one to crack. I noticed that Lord Finatra's boys had brought Testefy back into the interrogation room, and they started talking about Australian internet? What the fuck?
So what I hear is fucking Australia got their internet fucking jacked up by like fucking some like trans-Pacific, or not trans-Pacific, but it was like, I think it was through like the Sea of Japan.
The pipeline. And
yeah, one of their fiber optic cables. Yeah, got cut off.
What happened
with their internet? Yeah, like they had this badass fiber optic internet system, right? That was connected to like mainland China or something. And I hear like some sort of it might have been a military operation or something, completely severed the cable and cut their internet just like in half, and their bandwidth just fucked.
Yeah, I remember hearing something about that, but it's been a while.
Been a few years, like 5 years since then, but
It was at this time I sent Testefy a text message listing another suspect, Nasser Rabadi, a minor wise guy in the Comicsgate Kings, to help spur the conversation to get back on topic. Testefy, always the one to enjoy a shit show, didn't let me down.
damn.
Wait a minute. Sneak Peek is thinking Nasser might be the CG Hitman. Uh-oh.
Oh,
Oh,
I bet you was Nasser.
it better not be.
Nasser's crazy as shit.
It better not be.
I would hope not.
He's like, I'm Nasser. Behind the scenes, he's fucking Cobra Commander. Like,
If
if
Nasser-
all of us.
Yo, if Nasser, Nasser, if that's you, I will shit all over you, and I will never
We're
fucking
coming after you,
promote.
Nasser.
I will never promote anything you fucking do ever again.
Yeah,
I
what
don't
if
want nothing to do-
Nasser's actually like a 30-year-old super criminal, and the curly wig is, hair is just a wig.
It's been a
He's
wig
bald
the
on top,
entire
like-
time.
Right?
It was at this time I grew impatient. I stormed out of the room and kicked in the door of the interrogation room and let them have it.
The youthful fucking.
What the hell is wrong with you fuckers? A killer is on the loose and you're talking about the goddamn Australian internet? I had to get out of bed, Finatra. I had to get out of bed and jump on here and get you to pull your fucking dicks back in your pants and solve this goddamn case. Jesus Christ, Leroy deserved better. He deserved better.
I think it was Smug Pug now.
Fuck.
Usually the loudest is the one that did it. It was Smug Pug.
I believe him.
Smug Pug was the hitman.
Smug Pug was the hitman.
Yep. He's like, there could be only one pause show.
I left the room and returned to the adjoining observation room, waiting for Testefy to leave so I could share what I had found at the crime scene with Lord Finatra in peace. I entered the room to find they were playing Pictionary?
Detective P.
Good evening, gentlemen. How goes the case?
We've reached a cold point in the case. We
Cold
ran out
point?
of clues.
Well, it's lucky for you guys. I just came from the crime scene.
Uh-huh.
Well, what have you found, Detective Pig?
Well, let me just show you this photography evidence I've got here. I'm going to share my screen there, Chief. So as you can see here, this chalk outline is where we found the body. It's clearly Leroy. As you can see, there's a Starlight Cats found not far. Someone, I assume, probably Dangerous Vanessa, left a bouquet of roses. Guilty, perhaps, maybe? An inside job? And there's me. There's me. I'm working on it. You can see I'm very, very invested. What do you guys think?
Smug beat me to it.
Notice the blood splatter here.
Wait
Probably
a
from
minute. Wait a minute. This is a hoax. I just read that there was a
murder.
pug that was stalking Liam Gray's daughter.
Sherlock Pug.
That could have been any pug.
Pug like Holmes.
Okay.
That could have been any pug. There's lots of pugs in Australia. You can't prove nothing. I'm innocent.
There's too many cases going on.
Things are riling up.
Testefy had caught me unawares and off guard. It appeared another case had presented itself. A former Comicsgate king named Liam Gray had recently been stalked at his home of residence by a deranged woman. The assailant had already been apprehended by the authorities, and for the moment, these two cases didn't seem connected. I once again entered the interrogation room to share my suspicions of wise guy Nasser Rabadi being the prime suspect. I entered the room to find out they were still playing Pictionary?
All right, here we go.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Welcome back.
I'm back.
Hello.
There's been a new breakthrough. I come with fresh evidence.
Nasser, your fucking shit ain't working.
Very suspicious that NASA's mic isn't working. Notice these bloody footprints walking away from the body.
Oh,
The killer appeared. The killer appeared to drop something. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but there's only one person who has these plushies in hand already. It's quite a coincidence. Elementary, my dear Finatra. Elementary.
Oh, you're making this show really good right now. Oh, this is probably the best shit ever. I never knew we could crack cases on this show.
It's like Mystery Science Theater or Modern Science Theater, whatever that stupid show is.
Mystery Science Theater 2000.
That's the one. Anyway, I'm sorry, guys. I can't stay long. I mean, I've got to get back out there.
You gotta get some more info, more intel.
That's right. There's a killer on the loose.
All right.
Get to the bottom of this case, Smug. We know you can do it.
I soon realized it was quite late, even for a night pug like myself, and I determined that I had got all I could out of Lord Finatra and his badges. Finatra and his men seemed more interested in playing Pictionary than solving this case anyway, but maybe that was by design. The reputation of the Stanktown PD isn't the greatest. I should know. I used to be stationed there till I got thrown out. I was kicked out for sexual harassment. Who knew it was against regulations to hump a dame's leg? What did they expect? I'm a dog. I decided to leave and make my way back to the office. It was late, but I couldn't help give the case another once-over before being taken by the Sandman's embrace. The list of people who could have whacked Leroy's channel was long. Too many suspects to name, but I narrowed it down to the most likely. This CG hitman was good, convincing Leroy to delete himself without even firing a shot. Then there was the issue of the CG snitch. Were they connected? The Frog Father, Ethan Van Sciver, seemed to think so. I decided to review the facts. Leroy had did a show a week ago, denigrating several prominent creators in CG City. Ethan had said that someone we all knew was in his DMs, snitching and concern trolling about Leroy's last broadcast. A rat. A CG snitch. It was likely this snitch was in the ear of several of the other Comicsgate kings. Ethan seemed to imply we all knew who this individual was, that he watched all the streams and was a recognizable name. Someone from the chat? Obviously. But possibly a channel owner. The CG hitman himself came to a smaller pool of suspects. According to Leroy's last words, the dox threat had come from a CG creator. For a creator to make this threat, it must have been a creator Leroy had backed as a customer, threatening to dox Leroy unless he pulled the plug on his program. It made sense that this was a creator. Money made people do crazy things, desperate things. That is, if Leroy was telling the truth to Ethan and not lying. Ethan believed that the CG hitman and the CG snitch are one and the same, that this was a premeditated gay-op against Leroy. Did this mean the snitch was also a creator? The amount of creators hanging around the CG Slumtown streams was limited. The Frog Father at the very least knows who the snitch is, and therefore has his suspicions on the identity of the hitman. Let's review the suspects. Of course, I couldn't rule out the Frog Father himself, Ethan Van Sciver. The money in CG City flows one way, and that's up, and he's at the top. Leroy's last broadcast had criticized many Comicsgate kings, Ethan included. Was Ethan coming forward to the Stankstream PD a cover for his own involvement? At the moment, it appeared, publicly at least, that he was the only other person other than Leroy that knew the identity of the assailants. Richard your boy Meyer, consigliere to the Frog Father, trusted friend and advisor. He was a regular target of the critics on the chat radio show, including Leroy. It was possible he was involved. However, the consigliere was rumored to have skipped town. He was no longer active in CG City. Has anyone seen Richie? Besides, Meyer didn't like getting his hands dirty. It was highly unlikely he's our man. Don Dan Fragaboom Fragger, another Comicsgate king, was heavily criticized by Leroy in the chat program. It was even quoted as hanging on by a thread. It was a possibility, but Fragger's known temperament didn't match the profile of the CG hitman. While he might have had motive, it would be surprising if he was our guy. Capo Cecil Sayes Jones, a notorious alcoholic. Leroy had criticized his dame, that Star Wars girl's lewd calendar, live on air. Leroy also committed the cardinal sin of describing Cecil as not funny anymore. Pfft, like that guy was ever funny. Could the combination of alcohol, hurt pride, and his girl being insulted on a live stream trigger a response of this kind? Maybe. Capo Shane, Cat Pappy Davis, was a patron of Leroy's show. It was often said that Leroy was in Shane's pocket. Leroy was a confirmed backer of Shane's book, Starlight Cats. Perhaps their friendship was cut short by the recent stream. Whether ordered from up top, or taking matters into his own hands, the Cat Pappy might have cleaned up his own mess, and cleaned up his boy when he became a liability. Made Man Gabe LTA'd, the new guy. Leroy and his co-hosts were especially perturbed by Gabe's politics, and outright threatened to boycott him. Not something someone new to the game wants to hear. But Gabe so far doesn't have a book, therefore Leroy couldn't be a customer of his. It was unlikely the Made Man was involved. John the Muscle Dillard, a lower level guy in the CG structure, but even he wasn't spared from Leroy's show. He was criticised for taking a side gig with NASA wise guy Rabati, while his own book was overdue. Did Leroy back his book? Did the muscle put the squeeze on Leroy? NASA, the wise guy Rabati, one of my leading suspects. Several years ago, young NASA fell out with the Comicsgate Kings and went into exile. He was only embraced and welcomed back last year. Was young NASA eager to prove himself in the eyes of the Comicsgate Kings by dealing with a mutual problem? It certainly didn't help his case that Leroy and his crew also criticised him and his return heavily on their show. Well-read user, also known as well-sped loser. It was no secret the animosity he had towards Leroy on his rival radio show, The Chat. Like NASA, he was another leading suspect, especially as the CG snitch. Well-read had access to the Kings via his YouTube show, and running around backstabbing, concern trolling and snitching in private DMs behind people's backs was his standard MO. I should know. I experienced it firsthand, along with many others. He wasn't a creator though. The only thing Well-read created was life-ending boredom and the occasional bowel movement, and I doubt he had access to Leroy's docs. Unless someone else passed it on to him? Testefy spoke about Well-read's theory that Leroy was a war campaign gay-op, and Well-read had criticised Leroy's show on his own show. He took Leroy's stream as a slight on CG, coupled with his own personal issues with Leroy. Testefy-HD and his Etsy boys. Street-level thugs with access to several creators. Whenever you smelt something rotten in CG City, you could be sure Testefy and his Etsy boys were not far away. A splinter faction from the old war campaign bodyguards of Ethan himself. Could they be involved with Leroy's self-deletion? Speaking of war campaign, according to Testefy, who said according to well-read user, Leroy used to be a member of this group before the great CG thought war of 2020. Once the Frogfather's most loyal troops, they fell out of favour. The streets of CG City ran red with blood in the greatest internal struggle the city had ever seen. War Campaign ultimately lost that war and fled underground. Well-read suspected Leroy was a turncoat, changing his name and avatar and rebranding. Could War Campaign be behind his disappearance for this disloyalty? Finally, we have a new street-level faction called the Crack Pack, a gang that controlled the supply and distribution of crack on the streets of CG City. Leroy had spoke out against the group publicly, and reportedly had worked behind the scenes to shut the group down. There were several public disagreements with prominent members like D-Wag and Matthew Fowler. Could members of the group be behind Leroy's demise? Bow! Well, what do you think, chat? Any one of the suspects on this list could ultimately be responsible. Leroy had made many enemies throughout his career. The CG snitch and the CG hitman could be any one of them, or even someone not on this list. If this was a YouTube video, and there was a comment section, I'd encourage the viewers to leave their comments on who they think it is below, and why. In the meantime, I could feel my eyelids getting heavier, and I drifted off into slumber. Little did I know that this case would follow me into my dreams.
Now, Ethan, big man Ethan, he's looking around and he's thinking, I got no one I can use to attack dog as an attack dog. I got no one who can go out and do my dirty work for me so that I can keep my nose clean. But you know who was always willing to do my dirty work and fuck with the small guys? NASA.
I woke from my sleep to the sound of my rotary phone ringing. A rotary phone was used several decades before your fancy iPhones. in case you millennials didn't recognize the sound. It was Lord Finatra. His men had nabbed wise guy Nasser Rabadi and were bringing him in for questioning on the Leroy case. I wasted no time, hit the pavement, and got myself over there post-haste. When I arrived in the observation room, Rabadi was just being brought in. I couldn't help but be reminded of my dream from the night previous. Who was the dancing little man? What did his cryptic message about Nasser Rabadi mean? Were Nasser and Ethan both involved? Nasser was already my number one suspect as the CG hitman. He also fit the bill of being the snitch. I settled in and prepared for the upcoming interrogation. These fucking guys were still playing Pictionary?
Ah, there you go. What the fuck happened?
Can you guys hear me?
Hell yeah, dude. Welcome. Why so eager?
Because I have to admit it. I killed Leroy. I killed him for money and a woman, and I didn't get the money and I didn't get the woman.
We all lose because of your actions, Nasser.
But no, Jack Stafford in the chat's crazy. I don't know who Leroy is. He's like, Leroy didn't like you. You had a motive. I don't even know who Leroy is.
Why so eager to get on, though?
Because everybody kept saying, get on and address this. Get on and address this.
Address what? I'm not even paying fucking...
Jack Stafford's comments in the chat because he's being a fag.
I'm not even paying attention. Oh, Nasser, there was something that was brought up to Ethan's attention, and we all blamed you for it.
What?
Oh yeah, like Leroy's getting doxxed or whatever, and he was like, oh, somebody from the chat told me that Leroy's getting doxxed, and then that's why Leroy backed out.
Okay, I don't know about any of this.
All right.
You're the one that just admitted you did it, though. Why did you dox Leroy, Nasser?
But I didn't.
Find out who the culprit is.
Uh-huh.
Because the person who smelted dealt it type of shit. And but I think the person's a creator as well, so they all blamed you for it, and you ended Leroy. Nasser.
Why does everyone always blame me for everything?
I got upset earlier. What the fuck did I get upset about? I was like, yo, if Nasser did that shit, then I'm not going to talk to him anymore.
Yeah, you said that, and that was weird because I don't know why you would even think that had anything to do with
20
that.
minutes later, a half hour later, I'm like, what exactly did I say?
Jack Stafford saying classic deflection and projection from Nasser.
Well, people
what
are
am I deflecting?
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it, Nat. I mean,
this dude's crazy. This guy has to be Liam Gray. This has to be Liam's alt or something.
No, don't take it totally to heart. I mean, if you got shit to talk about, say it. If you want to speak on it, please do. You got the right to. But don't feel like you got the right not to you got the right to ignore it as well.
Mr. Dong says Nasser sounds guilty. I'm not guilty.
That's what the guilty people would say.
I couldn't take it anymore. This little punk was running rings around Lord Finatra and Officer Checkpoint. I left the observation room and kicked in the door to the interrogation room. Sometimes if you want bananas, you gotta shake a few coconut trees. See what falls out, or something like that.
Perth Comics is classic. You're from Perth. I don't want to hear anything from you.
Oh, right here, totally guilty. Now you're fine, Nasser.
Good work on bringing him in, boys. I'll take it from here. Nasser, let's establish the facts.
Okay.
Where were you between the hours of Leroy shit talking you on his own stream?
That's what it was. Yeah, that's what it was. Thank you.
And then him deleting his channel. You got an alibi?
I didn't even know he did that. And I don't know when any of this happened.
This happened last week.
I'll take your word for it, Nasser. I believe you.
Don't believe him. Yeah, well, you see, Ethan came on and he spun a very interesting tale. See, very interesting tale. He spoke to Leroy right before he's dead.
Yeah, wise guy.
Yeah, see? Ethan said that Leroy said before his death, before he was silenced, before you silenced him, that he was threatened with his docs by a CG creator. And Leroy just so happened to be shit-talking you, young NASA. It was eating you up inside, wasn't it? It was burning at you.
Why
You
would
couldn't stand it. I'm asking the questions here.
Why would he even back me? How would I have any of his information if he doesn't like me?
You tell
Smug Pug's
me.
holding the light bulb to your face right now.
You tell us, NASA. Which books did he back? He gave you his money, and then you fucking killed him.
No, he didn't give me his money and I didn't kill him.
Let's see what the chat says.
I kind of overheard that. I thought I heard that, but Jerry Burtz, I think I heard that, but I know, yeah. They said, yeah, no. I kind of listen. I don't listen to everything because I don't want to, even Ethan, I don't want to believe everything I hear, so I kind of filter out shit. Anybody, I just filter shit out. Sometimes it's shit that I need to pay attention to, but sometimes it just feels like the same old shit.
Am I the only one drinking?
I'm drinking.
All right.
Do I not sound fucking hammered to you?
No.
I'm stone cold sober. It's like 1 a.m. I've actually got to go to bed. But
No,
not before I
usually
let this
1
little punk,
Come
know.
on.
I got my eye on you, NASA. You sneeze in public. I'm gonna know about it. You shart in your pants. I'm gonna know about it. I'm gonna be there sniffing at you, NASA. I'm gonna be sniffing at you and nipping at you and eyeballing you for the rest of your days. You're going down, you little punk. It's people like you that are ruining this. Ah, shut up! I'm talking here. Okay, I'm finished.
This has been disturbing.
Lord Finatra's bully boys forcibly removed me from the room, and they had to let Nasser Abadi walk. I asked Finatra about the overwhelming evidence, the admission, the motive, the stuffed plush toy Nasser dropped at the scene. The admission was dismissed as a LARPing move on Nasser's part. The motive was called flimsy, and my photo evidence of the crime scene rejected on the grounds of it being a shitty Photoshop. Joke's on them. I made it in GIMP. I was asked to leave the station and drop the case. I was rustling too many jimmies, which only served to push me on further. Fortunately, Lord Finatra wasn't the only friend I had left in this city, and I left the suburb of Stanktown behind me and made for Harlot's Harbor. I was on my way to see Ray Bear. If that name was unfamiliar, you might also know her by her working name, Saggy Melons. She had worked her way up from a street-walking whore to running every brothel in the Harbour District. Why the Harbour District? Well, do you know what they say about whores and sailors? No, seriously, do you? Because I have no fucking idea. Saggy Melons was likely at her main bordello known as Sirens, servicing men from across the city. I don't want to describe the sick shit she'd get up to. Instead, I'll just leave it to your imagination. The bouncer at the door gave me a wary eye as I entered. I had a brief stint in security at Sirens after I got kicked off the force. What got me fired? Sexual harassment. Turns out licking my own balls and anus in front of the clientele was a faux pas. What did they expect? I'm a dog. I found Saggy quickly enough and made my presence known. She tried brushing me off at first, but when it comes to women, persistence pays off.
Oh, Detective Peg, ignore my question. Shows your guilt, young lady. I didn't ignore your question. You didn't ask one or I didn't see one. Why are you Detective Peg, by the way? What is going on? Do I even want to know? Do I want to know? Let's see. Hold on. Let's go to Detective Peg's comment here. What do you want, Detective Peg? What do you know about Leroy's channel getting whacked? You've been what? What? Who? Who are you talking about? What? I'm confused. I'm very confused. I don't know what you're talking about. That makes no sense to me. I don't know what's going on with this detective story. You're very odd right now. I don't suss you, Smug. I don't know what you're doing.
I knew that Saggy was giving me the stone wall. A know-it-all black woman who didn't know anything? Unlikely. but I wasn't going to waste my time any further. I turned to leave the brothel, but Saggy slid up behind me suddenly and slipped something into my back pocket. "Good luck on the case," she said with a wink. "Thanks, Sugar Tits," I said back before leaving the club and allowing her to get back to work. Outside the brothel, I reached into my pocket and pulled out what she had discreetly given me. It was a business card for a rival private detective agency called D&V Investigations. I wasted no time and headed across town to see what they knew. I knew the pair at D&V Investigations, Dean and Vicky, well. After I was fired from my job as a bouncer at the Sirens Club, I got back to my detective roots and worked for them for a time. Unfortunately, I was fired for, you guessed it, sexual harassment. I was caught red-handed sniffing Vicky's crotch and seat cushions. But what did they expect? I'm a dog. Their office was far nicer than mine, fancy and upmarket. It had nice things like year-round electricity, air conditioning, running water, and a working toilet. The pair were visibly discussing the Leroy case, but fell silent when I entered the room. There was a moment of awkward silence before it was finally broken.
All right, I guess we should. Oh, goodness gracious.
Well, 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 if it isn't my former colleagues and current rivals, D&V Investigations.
Oh, what are you talking about now?
What is this?
I should have known you two was working the Leroy case.
Yeah,
Who,
of course.
Who's the CG hitman? Who's the CG snitch? Are they connected? Are they the same? Who are they? Why'd they do it? Dear God, somebody...
All right.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, fuck that guy.
That's why
So
we dumped
anyways.
him, I guess.
As Dean was throwing me out of the office, I managed to snatch a crumpled piece of paper unnoticed from a desk. In the safety of the street outside, I uncrumpled it and noticed a familiar icon with a name scrawled underneath. Mr. Dongs. I'd heard of Mr. Dongs. He was something known as a Kiwi farmer at Kiwi Farms. The Kiwi Farms was a farm on the outskirts of CG City that produced cute little kiwi birds as pets for the city's children, as well as delicious kiwi fruit for consumption. But few knew that public facade was a cover. The farms in reality was a network of information brokers, and Mr. Dongs was one of the best. I ran to the nearest payphone and made a few calls to see if I could arrange a meet. I was given a time and a place. Nothing more. Several hours later, I had arrived at the predetermined destination. A cornfield on the outskirts of CG City. I'd been waiting for over an hour before I noticed a man walking down the road towards me. In his hands, he held a manila folder. "Mr. Dongs?" I asked cautiously. "What can you tell me about the Leroy case?" The man said nothing, handed me the manila folder before turning and started walking away. I was about to leave before I heard a voice say, "I can tell you it's autistic." I turned to look back at the man, but he was already gone. I heard something rustling in the cornfields behind me, but before I could react, I felt a sharp blow to the back of my head and was knocked unconscious. I awoke in my office with a splitting headache, which is to be expected after taking a billy club to the skull. Glancing at my clock, I realized I had slept through the night and half of the day. Again, which is probably to be expected after you take a sucker hit to the noggin. Surprisingly, Mr. Dong's manila folder was still unopened next to me. I guess he had something to do with me ending up back here. I opened the folder and began to read Mr. Dong's report. The first part of the report was a retread of what we already knew. The sudden cancellation and disappearance of Leroy and his radio show, The Chat. The second part was more interesting, as it involved a conversation between Leroy and Shane Cat Pappy Davis. In the conversation, there was no mention of Leroy getting a dox threat, and rather he was concerned about being perceived as a clout chaser and sick of rumors he was trying to become an influencer. The third part of the report was an analysis of Ethan's appearance in the Stanktown police station and going over his statements to Finatra and his boys in blue. These Kiwis were everywhere. My eyes ran over the text, and I found myself finished before I even knew it. Other than the attachment of some photographs, including my photo of the crime scene, there was nothing else. It appeared Mr. Dongs and the information brokers at Kiwi Farms didn't know the identity of the CG hitman either. I let out a sigh and let the report fall to my feet. I had hit a dead end. I decided to grab my coat and drown my sorrows elsewhere. I'd spent 3 days working this case. Granted, I spent most of the third day unconscious on my office floor, but the sun had set and it was time to wet my whistle. I made my way over to Smillerville, to Dark Gift's karaoke bar, a halfway decent dive with watered-down booze and overpriced cigars. The only thing worse than the heavy smog of the cigar smoke in the air was the horrible singers who turned up to give karaoke a shot. But the place was home. After I was fired from D&V investigations, Dark Gift threw me a bone and took me on as a bartender. It didn't last long, though. I was fired for sexual harassment. One night I cocked my leg and took a piss on a bar stool. Dark Gift didn't appreciate it, and neither did the dame sitting on the stool. I took a seat at the bar and ordered a drink. Surprisingly, the place was pretty lively tonight. Dark Gift was busy talking to a number of his patrons, when the conversation suddenly turned to Leroy. My ears pricked up, and I sipped on my whiskey while puffing my pipe, desperate for any lead at this point.
Hold on a second. Detective Peak. He's changed his name to Detective Peak. All right, Dark Gift, I'm doing the rounds. Several nights ago, Leroy's channel got whacked. What do you know about it? Let's start talking about. I just heard something about that. To be honest, I heard he nuked his own channel, but
that's what I heard. Yeah.
I don't know much about it. I don't know why he would do that. I didn't hear like the lead into why he would nuke his channel. Just apparently he nuked his own channel. Jabba says, Detective Peak, I saw Vic King hanging around and lurking in Leroy's chat. And, says,
sure, yeah. I don't even know who Leroy is.
I was done listening. After a few drinks down, I decided to join the conversation and let Dark Gift know to put the word out on the streets that I wasn't going to let this case go.
Nuke your channel. Say, boom, I'm out. Then the return stream is going to be even more epic, right?
Plus, capitulating to people like that never works out well.
Oh, we've got the detective himself.
All right, boys, I'm here to rustle some jimmies, shake some feathers, stir up some trouble, kick the hornet's nest. Finatra told me to bury this case. I ain't burying it. Leroy can't be buried. He's already buried in the fucking ground. He's DED.
Who the fuck is Leroy?
I'm talking here, George. Don't interrupt.
Hey, Detective Pig, do you carry a snub-nosed revolver?
I carry a water pistol.
Do you smoke a cigar or suck on a lollipop?
A holy water?
I smoke cigars and cigarettes. I'm asking the questions here. Dark Gift, I want you to put
Tits
the word
man or
out.
ass man? I mean, sorry.
What did you say, Smuck?
I want you to put the word out. Everybody in this city comes through your bar. You hear a lot. You hear anything, you talk to me. And I want you to put it out there. Detective Pig's on the case. I ain't going to rest. I ain't going to stop. It ain't going to be buried.
I will put the word out there.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Fuck you, George.
What's going on, George?
Who the fuck is Leroy?
Leroy, he's got a channel.
The douchebag comes into my chat during my movie stream and brings up this some guy named Leroy. And then when I confront him, he goes, "Well, maybe it was, maybe it wasn't."
I don't know. I just know Leroy had a channel. He commented a lot on with things that were going on, and I think he even reviewed books. I think.
I might not have found the CG Hitman, but at the very least, I could let him know that I wasn't gonna stop. I wasn't gonna let him get away with it. The message was received. Dark Gift would put it out to every made man, assassin, and thug in this wretched city until it reached the ears of the Hitman himself. And wait a minute, did George just call me a douchebag?
So someone decided to try to dox him for that? Is that what I'm putting two and two together
so.
here?
I think that's like the.
That's the story floating around.
The reason it's like a big deal really is most of the people who are involved in like this particular part of the indie comic scene are middle-aged people with families, kids, things like that. Things that unfortunately, when a lot of these doxers go and dox people, they dox.
They go after families.
That's messed up.
That is messed up. And that's messed up what happened to poor little Leroy. He was a good
No,
kid.
it's not messed up. It's life.
How old was Leroy?
You want the scoop? You want the skinny Dark Gift? For once it looks like I'm in the know and you're not, pal.
How old was Leroy?
Give me the scoop. Give me the skinny.
Several days ago, Leroy did a show on the radio, The Chat. They criticized a number of creators. Next
How
thing you know,
old is Leroy?
Shut up, George. I'm talking.
You're
Anyway.
a gumshoe. You're a gumshoe. You know that. You know what that means.
You know what, George? Where were you between the hours of Leroy shit talking all these creators and his channel getting whacked? You got an alibi, pal?
Yeah. I was asleep behind my computer.
Because here's the interesting part of the story. I spoke to Van Skyver, see? We all saw him on the Finatra stream, and he said Leroy got a message from a CG creator threatening to dox him if he didn't go underground. There's a hitman out there, George. A CG hitman. And I'm going to find the piece of shit. I'm going to find the scumbag. I'm going to put him away for the rest of his life and make him wish he was never born for what he did to poor little Leroy.
Wait, because Leroy was complaining about being late?
Oh, fuck, I can't keep up with this. I'm out of here. See you later, Dark Gift.
That was awesome.
Too intoxicated to put up with my fellow barflies and George's questions, I got off my stool and stumbled out of the bar and into the streets. The night was still young, and I had one last destination. The final destination. The only place left to go. All liquored up and full of liquid courage, I slowly made my way to the CG City Heights, to the home of the Frog Father, Ethan Van Skyver himself. He was the only one who had the answers to the questions I had, aside from Leroy, whose channel was probably 6 feet under by now. I snuck into the grounds easily enough, avoiding the patrols of armed guards casing the joint, until I found an open window. It was risky business breaking into the Frog Father's home, but at this point, I was left with no other option. The Frog Father and his associates were in the foyer, discussing business when I suddenly found myself among them. I noticed Capo Cecil Says Jones was present. Picking my target carefully, I eyed the Frog Father and slowly walked towards him. "I've got a question for you guys," I declared, my hand reaching into my jacket, his men reaching into theirs, but it was too late. I was right in front of him, and I withdrew my wallet and slammed a $5 down in front of him.
Detective Peak says, "Where was Cecil the night Leroy's channel got whacked? I'm on to you, funny guy. Start talking." Yeah,
So,
Leroy's
when
channel.
you saw only
What?
one,
Leroy, his channel got whacked. Why do you, how does channel get whacked?
No, his channel went down. Leroy's like, I don't want drama, I don't want fighting and all this stuff, so I can't. I know what happened, but I can't say it for Leroy's sake. But Leroy voluntarily took his channel down.
why do people always say, "Where were you? Where were you?" When they're like during my hardest time and I saw only one set of footprints? Where were you?
Oh, yeah, where were you when the walls fell?
I was on your back during that time.
The $5 was poorly spent. After the Frogfather and his associates gave their responses, I was dragged outside, roughed up, and then given a ride back to my office. I was told to drop the Leroy case, and if they ever saw me again, I'd be labelled excommunicado, anti-CG, and be the target of every drive-by doxer and triggerman in the city. I slumped back in my chair at the office. No answers, no closer to uncovering the CG hitman's identity. The trail had run cold. As I sobered up, I realized that the case was over. I don't know what to tell you kids. Leroy's life wasn't worth my own. I'd spent 3 days chasing down every lead and turned up nothing. The Stanktown PD, the information brokers at Kiwi Farms, and every connection I had wasn't enough to solve this case. Even breaking into Skyver's manor and confronting him personally and greasing his palms, it wasn't enough. It looked like this was the end. Not every story has a happy ending. Not that this one was an overly bad ending, but rather just an ending. I guess we'll never know the identity of the CG hitman. This case was officially cold. My thoughts were interrupted by a knock at the door. Probably the Dame Vanessa. I didn't want to face her and give her the bad news. "Who is it?" I asked. I rose from my chair and approached the door. "You got a tongue in that head of yours, pal?" I asked. "Who is it?" I opened the door and was greeted by a silhouette in the darkness. My blood ran cold. I didn't find the CG hitman. He'd found me. Who are you?
I'm Danny. He's Danny. I'm Danny.